Yo, what's good, everybody? Today is April the 7th, 2026. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another opportunity of prayer. We thank you, God, for just another chance to come together. We ask you, God, that you bless our conversations as well as our viewers and their families as well. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Yo, what's good, everybody? Y'all come on in, get in the comments, join the conversation tonight. Want to say happy born day to a few people. Want to say happy born day to my both of my cousins, uh, Kevin Bergman and Jerry Bergman, who celebrated this past week. Happy born day, fam! I love you guys as well. I talked to both of them. I love you guys, man. Though, happy born day to you guys. But then yesterday, the beautiful Linda Rosario, her born day was yesterday. Happy born day, Linda, again. Love you much. And my right hand man for over 30 years, number 77 himself, turned the big dick buckets yesterday, 51. So shout out to Hot Rod Wilson. You already know what it is, bro. Salute to you. Happy born day. Continue to celebrate, continue to be great, and continue to do all that you're doing, man. And everybody else that celebrated over the weekend. But I wanted to give a shout out to those few people in particular. Um, and I want to ask the whole Marvin Bennett Jr. Show community to please keep Miss Hey Y'all Hey, Tanya help in prayer as she lost her aunt Joanne. So please keep her lifted in your prayers, her and her family as well. Know that we're here for you, and we anything you need, let us know, man. We got your back though. Um, with that being said, we're gonna get into it, man. You know, it's the first of the month freestyle show. We're gonna keep it light tonight, talk about current affairs and certain topics. What's good with you, Sam? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was good. It was good. It was busy taking care of a lot of stuff. The in-laws was up, so hanging out with him.
Mm. And happy Resurrection Sunday too to everybody that celebrates Christianity or believers or whatnot. Happy Resurrection Sunday. I forgot to mention that on the closing of last week's show, and it crept up on me. But it was funny. I was having a conversation at work the other day. There was so many people that called out, and then people was like, "Yeah, well, what you expected was the day after Easter?" And I'm like, "What's going on Easter, Easter Sunday, that people need to call out of work the next day? Like, what am I missing? Is like Easter like the spring? Hey, what's good, Drew? Is Easter like the new like the mid year Christmas or whatever? Like you gotta like I expect people to call out or miss after the Super Bowl, but I ain't never heard of nobody calling out after Easter. But I've always been in church, so I guess what is that about? Okay, cool. Um, yeah. Hey, what's good, Drew, man? How everything going with you, bro? I seen you posted another video too. I gotta check it out. I caught the opening prayer on TikTok, but I gotta go back and watch the actual video. But shout out to you too, man. Keep on doing your thing, man. Um, so I wanted to say congratulations also to the women of UCLA on winning their national championship. Shout out to them, their coach. It was a beautiful post game with her and her mom having that moment. I think she had been with UCLA for 15 years. And everything is pretty much dominant. UConn and Tennessee, and now recently LSU, and there's a few other ones, Baylor. There's a couple of ones in women's college basketball that been prominent, but everybody thinks UConn and Tennessee. So shout out to UCLA for shocking the world. I believe when I looked at it, hey, what's good, Lily Tiger? Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. And thanks for tuning in. But yeah, UCLA. I believe they only had one loss on the year. That's absolutely fantastic. You know what I mean? So shout out to them again, man, on their national championship. All right, I appreciate that. Oh, that's what's up, Drew. Thanks for tuning in while you're at work, bro. Appreciate you. Yeah, so shout out to them. Shout out to the Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines on their national championship, winning last night, beating UConn. Um, Pretty good game. I actually watched most of that game until the final, maybe 3 minutes before I had to get up out of here. But it was a pretty. I enjoyed the game. I did see something that kind of, eh, I'm one of those people that's I don't love sports anymore. I used to love sports, but I'm not. I don't love sports anymore because it just feel like um, I'm doing pretty good. Lily, thanks for asking. Um, it's just too much involved for me these days. No, I used to coach though. I used to coach Pop Warner football. Uh, Shout out to Cap City Steelers. We was doing their thing. Actually, one of my former players was a Super Bowl champion this year for the Seattle Seahawks, Derek Young. So shout out to Derek Young. Sam is a trainer as well. Sam got some people that he's going through the ranks that are making it to the pro level and doing their thing in college and whatnot. So shout out to them young men as well. But yeah, like when it comes to sports, man, with this legalized gambling, all these other things that's going on, it bothers the integrity to me. And I know particularly right before the half, there was a particular play where I believe it was a Michigan player that went up for a shot. And I know clear as day I heard the whistle, but they kept on playing ball and got it was something weird about that play. And we used to seeing stuff like that, after the fact when we go back and we get these little clips, especially now with social media and these bad calls and this here and that there. But I seen this in real time, and it was like, I want this to fix it. But I'm not taking anything away from Michigan. Michigan had a fabulous season. They were excellent all year. So shout out to them on winning that national championship. It was cool to see. It was cool to see the Fab Five, all five of them together. Chris Webber and Jalen, back together again and putting their beef aside. It was a pretty good sight to see, especially for people our age, people that's old enough to remember the Fab Five and the effect that they had on the culture. I won't even say America, like the culture, period. Like that's when that was the transition to the baggy shorts, the bald heads, the black socks. Like everybody wanted to wear the black. I don't remember anybody ever wearing black socks before the Fab Five. So shout out to them, all them guys for them getting together, their differences or whatever it may be. But when we talking about being that we talking about sports, uh, that's what's up. Uh, what's good, Patrick? Thanks for tuning in as well. Um, I wanted to get into this whole Gino Alvarez, Gino and Dawn drama that happened over the weekend. Even though UCLA, I'm not taking anything away from them. I didn't watch that game, so I don't have really much commentary on that particular game. But congratulations to them. But I didn't even watch the not Carolina, South Carolina and UConn game. But I did see that immediately because even when I shared it to my page, that exchange between Dawn said I whooped Gino ass. It was like I posted it to my. I said that's one way to get the ratings up. Being funny. But what was your position on that, Sam? Before I go,
Yeah, I watched it, watched the whole game, and I really didn't want to because it was, that was a blowout, and I feel that well, the championship game was a blowout, but that was a blowout too. But it's one of those things that I was definitely shocked at what he did, but it's easy to say stuff when you're not physically there.
mm-hmm.
But I think from my understanding when I first heard it, he was upset because he saw one of his players' jersey rip. The
Mm-hmm.
girl that's from Fuquay,
Yeah,
Sarah Strong, and so he just assumed it was a South Carolina player that did it.
mm-hmm.
And I think when he went over to the ref, fussing the ref out, saying, "You didn't see that," and the ref's like, "We didn't see it. We didn't see it." So I think with Sarah. being near the bench, at that time, like she heard him, like she could have said, "Coach, I ripped my jersey." Like it kind of like it could have been, taken down a little bit. But what I was at least glad to see was him to, like, apologize to the staff, to the players, and to the NCAA. And people were saying, well, he didn't put Dawn's name in that statement. He just said the South Carolina staff. And I'm sitting there like, he got a phone number. Like nobody knows what, like, that he didn't call her or he did call her. It's one of those things because she used to coach with him, in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that, I think it was definitely blown out. It was definitely his account, but I think there was so many things that was missed that kind of could have, taken it down. And I hate how the reporters, instead of making it about South Carolina win, they wanted to basically, even going into the UCLA game, they didn't want to focus on the win. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to focus on that. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I have an issue with our media. They just want to they just want the hate stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm glad you went too, because that you gave me a different perspective to look at it from. Like with me, I've been, I won't go as far as say a fan, but I've supported or tuned in here and there to women's college basketball for years now. Gino, it was totally classless to me. I'm a put it there for me. Um, and that apology was BS. I don't even. I rather you had not even done it for the manner that he did it. Because he's a big crybaby, and the reason that I say that is because I remember years ago, back in the '90s, early 2000s, Pat Summitt, we used to say the same exact thing. That's why people they shocked how Gino, he's a sore loser. He's that. It's nothing new. Gino used to go back and forth with Pat Summitt all the time because he could not stand losing to Pat Summitt, yo. He could not stand it. So this is nothing new for Gino's character. As long as he's winning, as long as you kind of dominating, he's good. But his proven history is notorious that he is a sore loser. He does not take a losing well. And the problem that I have with that is, like I said, as a former coach, as a former athlete, it's like, how do you hold your players to a certain standard where you lack it yourself? You know what I mean? We expect our players to have sportsmanship. We expect our players to go out there and shake hands. And then for him to get up there and talk about, well, yeah, I've been in this business for X amount of years, and it's customary that we do a pregame shake. And then the footage show, did they have a pregame shake? Absolutely, they did. Dawn Staley shook everybody hand in the pregame. So that was lie number one that you got caught out there. Then all the years that I've been coaching, I've never seen anybody with equipment malfunction, a jersey get reps, and they tell us this here and that there. Go back and look at the video. The young lady, Sarah, she ripped the jersey herself. It wasn't even the South Carolina player that did it. So it's like all these things. And then when he did the formal, when he released the formal apology, he didn't even mention her name. And I'm one of those people that's big on, if it's done publicly, it need to be handled publicly. If it's done privately, then we handle it privately. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something to me in the public, if me and you get into a disagreement or argument on this particular platform, I ain't gonna come to you behind the scenes off the platform and say, you know what, Sam, I was out of pocket. I apologize for the role that I played in our disagreement. You know what I mean? I need to, if it happens on the show, I need to make the apology on the show. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of apology is that when you don't even mention the person's name that you're supposedly apologizing to? Like, that was so problematic for me. And like I say, I just think that whether you talk about religion, whether you're talking about coaching, whether you're talking about any aspect of life, you have to be the first partaker of your work. I don't want to hear anything from a preacher that's not living the life that he's preaching about. I don't want to hear anything from a coach that isn't exemplifying the character or the traits that he's asking me to do. If he's asking me to be somebody that's involved in the community, I need to see you doing some community work. You know what I mean? Some volunteer work here and that there. And I just think a lot of times we we um we ask for things from others that we're not willing to do ourselves, and I don't think that that's right. I think Gino, he was definitely out of character for that. Um, I'm glad they lost. I'm glad they lost. I'm glad everybody got to see it. And to me, I'm a Jersey kid, so I was definitely going for UConn men the whole time up until Saturday when I seen Danny Hurley defend Gino. Oh, he's a great guy, and this that has nothing to do with what he did. You know what I mean? Even good people do bad things here and there, and bad people do some good things here and there. But you can't condone that or try to justify what he did in his whole tantrum. Like, because that's really what it was. It was a grown man having a tantrum at post game. Now, I still would like to know what was said because Dawn asked about it when they asked Dawn about it that night anyway. She said, ask Gino what he said. She wouldn't even get into it because she wanted, like to your point, Sam. She wanted to keep the spotlight on the girls. On the women on the basketball team, not her and Gino. She didn't want to make it a her and Gino issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things, man. And like I said, I just think that we got to hold ourselves to the same standard. You know what I mean? That like even with parents, how are we gonna be parents and we try to do these different things and you know, and we don't expect our children to do something, but you lead by example. That's the best policy as far as I'm concerned. Hey, what's good, Patrick? Appreciate you for tuning in. Um, uh, what else? Oh yeah, you said you got that video pulled up. Pull up that video for me, Sam. The what's his name? James Ivy, is it?
Yeah, Ivy.
Yeah. So this is a young man. The video that we about to play is a young man that was released from the Chicago Bulls. Um, because basically, long story short, he didn't want to support. He spoke out against the NBA supporting Pride Month or Pride Week, whatever it is. I think it was Pride Month, and as a Christian or his beliefs, and they fired him for contract. What is it? Conduct detrimental to the team. So here's the video. Let's share the video. Well, one of the videos anyway. You can't hear it, son.
You said you can't hear it?
Mm-mm.
Hold on. Let me. All right, let's try it now.
Nah, it's playing, but I can't hear it. And if you guys that are watching, if you have any opinions on the Geno or whatever we're discussing, um, you feel free to put it in comments as well, or things that you guys want to talk about. This is the freestyle show, so whatever you guys want to talk about, just put it in the comments. We'll get to it.
Yeah, there may be a setting on your side that you have to, if it's mute.
Yeah, it's showing that. I don't see anything. Now I don't see anything where I can like control the volume, just either add or remove.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just did it like we did the last time with the cube.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. It should be.
you can hear it on your end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm shocked it's not picking up at least with my mic.
All right. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, because I can't. I still don't hear it. Drew said there's no sound either. He can't hear it either. But he pretty much was making it. They. How do you guys feel about that? They let him go from the Chicago Bulls, and I had posted it last week. I don't know if you guys seen it, but I posted it on my Facebook page. The explanation by actually see if you can pull that up, Sam, and let me see if I can share it to you from my page. If that'll make a difference. Billy Donovan is Billy Donovan giving his explanation of them terminating him. I said I'm sorry too. His name is Jaden, not James. Jaden Ivey. But how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like that's the do you feel like the NBA had a right to, or the Chicago Bulls in particular had a right to let him go based off of his personal beliefs or whatever the case may be? Because that was my thing. Or I go first, but that was my take on it. Like, for them to say that it was conduct detrimental to the team, um, I don't buy that. Um, we know, like they say, the alphabet people is no disrespect, but that they got big money when it comes to Hollywood and professional sports and things of that nature. There, um, let's see if we can hear this here. So this is Billy Donovan explaining why they let him go. Okay, and did it? I don't know if you guys heard it that good, but I heard it, but it was kind of low. Thing is, Billy Donovan said, I hope he's okay. Why wouldn't he be okay? Like nothing dramatic happened. He just made a stance on his religious belief. It made me even think about we. This is a new song, a new tune, same song though. People forget that we went through the same thing with Kyrie a few years ago. When all Kyrie did was repost a book, the link to a book that he thoroughly enjoyed. They want to blackball him out of the NBA. He needs to apologize to the Jewish community, find him all that there. First of all, I couldn't even understand if this happened in the NBA arena or in the Chicago Bulls uniform. This was in this man's personal Instagram page, off the clock, not in uniform. So my thing is, how is this contract conduct detrimental to the team? And what bothers me with this hypocritical things is like you can say anything you want to, again, anything you want to about anybody, except for the people with, as Will Mills like to say, the people with the little hats and the alphabet people. Why is it that their feelings are so protected. You know what I mean? Now you could go out here and a grown man could go out here and wear fingernail polish and do all this other kind of stuff, and no problem with that. But the minute that somebody say, I live for Jesus Christ, and I'm praying for those that don't believe, that are not believers. I'm praying that they will come to see the light, or I'm praying that they will see the light, the salvation, whatever the case may be. Now that's conduct detrimental to the team. I don't. It's hypocritical to me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's very hypocritical to me. And I'm gonna let you go, Sam, after I read Jude comment. Jude said, I feel bad for this young man, but I have a lot of respect for him too. At the end of the day, it's only two sets of people living on earth. It's believers and non-believers. It's either you go with their ways, or we get rid of you. They got rid of him for his belief that they disagree with the higher uppers. And that's my point. I think that is so freaking hypocritical. You know what I mean? As long as I'm willing to go along to get along, then it's cool. But the minute I try to, and it was funny, I was having a conversation this morning with an individual like that, about an individual with someone, and it's people like that too. Not just organizations, but it's people like that. As long as I'm willing to go along with whatever Sam is saying or whatever Sam believes, we good. But the minute Sam, you kind of out of pocket. Now, I can't even tolerate Marvin. He ain't got no open mind. And like it be funny how as long as you go along with somebody, they have no problem with it. You know what I'm saying? But the minute I want to get on 85, you want to take 95, that was an issue. I don't know how to drive. Why would you go this way and all this other? Like, I don't understand how people. I guess because I'm not like that. Cool, you do your own thing. You know what I'm saying? If you want to take your car, you want to go that way, go that way. You know what I'm saying? Or if you want to drive, hey, by all means, you the driver. You go whatever way you want to go. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand how people are like that in the organization, and it's totally wrong, especially on that level. Um, I can see if he went out there, even if he would have been preaching, and I still think that would have been it would have been more understandable. I think it would have been extreme, but I think it would have been more understandable. All you guys that don't accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're damned to hell. Like that wasn't his whole message. You know what I mean? So I agree. I'm with Juice. I'm definitely praying for this, and it was interesting too. One of the Knicks group that I'm in, it was a dude that posted them, and he was saying how because of Jaden Ivey making a stand that he did, he's now boycotting the NBA. You know what I mean? He's a Laker fan. It was in a Knicks page, but he's a Laker fan. He said that after they let him go, Jaden Ivey go, he said, I'm no longer watching the NBA as much as I want to see the Lakers win, and they got the number 3 seed right now, and I want to see what they do in the playoffs. He said he's not watching any more NBA at all. He's boycotting the NBA, and people in the comments it just baffled me how people in the comments were laughing at him like, who cares, and all this here and other kind of stuff. But to Drew's point, I respect it because we know that the society that we live in, and we know what he's capable of losing. You know what I mean? And that's the type of people that I like to be around. Those are the type of people that I respect. Somebody asked me over the weekend, say, listen, man, it was something that I had shared with them, a Charleston White thing, and I'm not big on Charleston White whatsoever. Just the sight of him get on my nerves sometimes. But a lot of stuff that he says is true. I don't care for his delivery, whatever, and I get it. And the person I was having a conversation with was saying, that's how he get his views up. And I even watched the video of him talking about how when he was talking how he wanted to talk, wasn't getting no traction. But then he become this controversial people and saying all these different things. How he went from like $200 checks from YouTube to $10,000 checks. Then the next day, he's making $60,000. Before you know it, and within 2 months, he was making like $100,000 a video. So the money is there. And they was asking me, he said, listen, with your platform, would you be willing to talk reckless to get that bread? And I'm like, no, I'm good with my little 30 views a week, 100 views a week here and there. I appreciate everybody that tune in, but I won't sell out my core beliefs or my principles for money. It ain't worth it to me. You know what I'm saying? I sleep peacefully at night. Whether the show take off and it becomes something big, cool. Every week I got Sam here support me. Every week I got Julian support me. Every week we got Toshiba. Different ones. Dorothy. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Being a blessing, or the people that come in like Antonio and Patrick and Lily, who came in early, and the people that come in from week to week and pop in here and there. Um, I forgot the young lady I meant to shout them out to. They was blowing up the comment section last week. um, but I appreciate that, and I won't compromise my integrity for a dollar amount or for a status or a position or anything. I'm just not built like that. I can't. My motto, the way I look at things, or my mentality has always been and always will be, I can't miss nothing that I never had. You know what I mean? When you talk about, well, man, shoot, you talking about $20 million. I never had $20 million, so I don't know what it's like to turn. You know what I mean? I'm good where I'm at.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not going to sell out. I don't. I like to think that I don't have a price when it comes to um, if it's going to compromise my integrity or my beliefs. How you feel about it, Sam?
It's for me. It's the same thing. I just think like I hear a lot of people bringing up Kyrie, and I said, some of the people that Kyrie helped, they turned their back on him. And I
Exactly.
remember during COVID, the WNBA players, they were struggling, financially because,
What's
their
good,
stuff
Marquis?
had, was see. So Kyrie paid all of them. He paid all their salaries when the WNBA didn't happen. But then when he got messed around by the league, not one WNBA player came to defend him after he gave them millions of dollars.
And isn't it something how quick people forget?
None of the female WNBA players came to defend him, and he actually put food on their table, money in their accounts.
Literally.
Yeah, so it's one of those things like with Ivy, he has to understand like the NBA is no longer about skill. Well, most sports is getting that way. You look at WNBA, you look at it's more about just
Absolutely.
selling. It's about the show, and I kind of feel like now it's getting to the point to where like back in the days, kids would swear up and down that wrestling was real. And then as we get older, we find out, oh, they're just actors. They're doing
Yeah.
this stuff. So
Hmm.
now when I look at an NBA game or even a football game, I see that same thing. I see them like refs dictating the game. Like how long has that been going even before that one ref got caught, and wrote the book and
Yeah.
he exposed all those people.
I
Look
think
at the
Sean
all the
McDonough.
Yeah, look at all the basketball players now getting busted for not gambling. They're getting busted for faking the injuries, so they're over and under and all that. Just like one kid lost his career over $700. Like that's what he was paid, but he made whoever was betting win over 100K, and all he got was 700, and he got booted out of. He can't play college ball no more, because that's ethically wrong. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's kind of like with the Don Staley Geno situation. Everybody human, they do certain things, but at the end of the day, the NBA is pushing this thing of being inclusive. And to me, inclusive means exclusive.
Exactly.
They don't want to say black people no more. They want to say people. They don't want to
Hmm.
simply specify us. They want to put us with that group. They want to put us with all these other things like they're watering us down. And I just think because he spoke about, I mean, think about all the some of the NFL games. You look at how they're editing. Like CBS did it real good when the football player said, "I want to give honor to Jesus Christ, my Savior."
Mm-hmm.
They edited that out.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at like just what they're trying to do. Even did you see the UCLA and South Carolina game? The girls.
Nah. Well, I
Well, the
had it
national
on, but I had it muted.
well the national championship game. They filmed it where they edited out her father. So they wanted to seem like she was raised with Bets and her sister was raised without a father. And his father, I mean, it's hard to miss him. He's 7'1". Like, but he was there, but then you have to go to her Instagram page to see them taking their family picture. But every time they show the arena, how many games you see where they show the parents and they show both parents?
Mm-hmm.
They intentionally cut him out just to focus on the mother. So that's the narrative that people just got to wake up because they want to destroy, even though they're biracial. I forgot what country their father. He's from the UK. He's British,
Mm-hmm.
and but they wanted to seem like all these black women is doing it on their own.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not saying that there's not some out there that's not, but I'm just saying the perception when
That's
you
not.
have
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
you have two active parents, why are you going through that extra effort to crop the father out the picture
Mm-hmm.
or the video? That's why every time they showed the mother, they showed it like how our faces are zoomed in.
Yeah.
When I look at other stuff like when Indiana was playing, they kept showing the father and the mother.
Yeah.
They did that with everybody except for Lauren Betts and her sister.
And that's why I stopped saying certain things like that to prove your point, Sam. Just to back up your point, that was a good analogy, or good comparison rather. But I remember, what do we always say? I remember having even in previous years on this show, we've had conversation. When it comes to the black community in the hood, you got so many single parent households, mothers, and this here and that there, and it's like we keep saying that, and people actually saying it, and we just run with it. See, what I was saying was a good comparison when you talked about wrestling, because I did a survey one day. I did an inventory on my own personal life, and I'm like, you know what? I do know a lot of people without their dads in their lives, or might not know who their dad is. But I know that many more people that are from two-parent households in the hood that have lived with their father. You know what I'm saying? Raised by their father, their mother and their father. So I understand, to your point. Yeah, some people are like that there. Shout out to the women that are doing it alone. Shout out to the men out there doing it alone. I know men, single parent dads, that are out there holding down a household, raising daughters, raising sons all by themselves with no help, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to all the
Yeah.
single parents that's out there that's doing it. But that's a false narrative that we like to run with. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
I thought about, like I said, we the Fab Five. I think with the exception of Gene, like all of us had our fathers in our lives. Rodney, who I just talked about, rest in peace, the big Clay. Like, there's so many people that in my immediate circle or that I went to high school with or known throughout life, they know who their dad is. You know what I'm saying? So, and I do know a lot of people that don't know who their dad is, whatever the case may be. But to make it seem like it's 80% of the hood, I just don't think that number is true. But that's the picture that we like to paint. And I think that, to your point, we got to stop falling for it. Because, like you say, they're promoting all this kind of stuff here. Here it is. I was reading something the other day about how they trying to cancel Cat Williams now. Because Cat said something to the effect of, they got to stop putting all this homosexual stuff in cartoons or whatever and let children be children. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not even going to get into all that there, but I was having a conversation about your favorite president, said Barack Obama, and how a lot of this stuff, as far as inclusion and gay rights and everything, came under his presidency. You know what I mean? And as Christians, I need somebody to really understand this for me. Hear this rather. We as believers, we have to stand for something. You know, the scripture says that if you be ashamed of me in front of man, I'll be ashamed of you in front of my Father. So for Christ you live, it should be Christ that you die. If you're a follower of Christ, you got to, you know, you can't be lukewarm. It ain't cool to be a Christian in private, but publicly be a regular person. You know what I mean? Hey, when I get, I can ask God to forgive me. You know, woo, woo, woo. But out here, you know, it don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? You need to practice what you preach. And as a human people, as a human being, as an American citizen, rather, I'll say it that way. As an American citizen, I respect. I have no problem with whoever anybody wants to sleep with, whoever they want to be in a relationship with. That's your American God-given right. However, as a Christian belief, as a Christian, I can't condone it. Now I have no heaven to put you in. I have no hell to put you in. But if you ask me how I feel about it, I'm gonna let you know I don't agree with it. I don't support it. No, I'm not coming to no weddings. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? Even if you family, whatever the case may be, I can't take a part in it. Now I'm happy for you, and I'm glad you found love or whatever the case may be. But I'm not gonna partake in that. You know what I mean? So, and I agree with Kat, and I don't think that he should be canceled for it. I think we got to stop putting these in these kids. That's what's jacked up about them now. All these different conclusions, all these different tests. I always tell people all the time, man. I used to mean it funny, but I mean it. Like if they did all the testing that they do nowadays, back then, I would have some letters. Sam, AHD, OCD, something. I would definitely have some letters. You know what I mean? But what was my letters? Hey boy, you better do what I tell you to do. Like it was just a different thing. And now we made it so where they actually had, I forgot what state it was, I was reading about it, where they're trying to put it into play, put it into law. Not just play, but actually put it into law where the child gets to determine up until I think the age was 7, what gender they want to identify with. This stuff is getting out of control, bro. What kid like and Cam? I was watching an interview with Cam, and he was making a good point. Cam Newton, and I don't do Cam Newton either. It's just something about his personality I can't rock with. But Cam was making the point. Like if I let my kid, of course we can't think for our children, but it's our job as parents to raise our children. You know what? Well, you know your child is free to think or feel however they want to feel. That was the response back to Cam. Cam was like, you know what? If I let my kids do whatever they want to, guess what? They eat Skittles for dinner. they would never go to bed. They would never go. You know what I mean? So it's like, where do we draw that line at? You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, you taking it too far. No, but that's essentially what it is. It's like we're trying to remove all these rights. We got so many black women out here in America right now thinking, I don't need no man for nothing. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden want to call you when the tide need to be changed. You know what I mean? They self-sufficient, independent women, but every once in a while you hear in a conversation, man, when am I gonna find somebody to take care of me? Why are you looking for somebody to take care of you? You're independent. You like having your own. So I think a lot of times when it comes to black women, I'm not trying to get on black women. I don't mean no disrespect by this whatsoever. I'm just venting right now, going, a little bit. But it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't want to be. You can't want to have all your liberties and all your freedoms that you have today, but still be treated like grandma did. We live in a different day and age. You know what I mean? Grandma put up with a whole lot more stuff than she did, and it wasn't always because she had to. Let's be clear on that. You didn't see divorce as high in the black community in the 50s and 60s. And people quick to say, well, that's because she had no money to go nowhere. She had to be dependent on him and all that did. No, it was a lot of women that was in broken homes, that wasn't in happy marriages, but they did it for what? The sake of the family. They stayed for the sake of the family, not because they wanted to, not because of love, not because of obligation, but it was big. The concept of family structure was bigger than them. And the government, we've seen this systematically since I can recall how they have constantly been trying to tear down the black community, the black family. And we have to get back to that family values. You know what I mean? A mom and a dad in the household, not two daddies, not two mommies. You know, every child deserves to be loved. But what picture does that send to the people? And not that the kid would grow up. I was watching something interesting. Somebody sent me something the other day talking about how, like, even with the Masons, how they recruit because they can't reproduce. It's the same thing with homosexuals. They try to recruit people because they can't reproduce. You can't reproduce something that's not natural or whatever the case may be. But that's neither here nor there. Drew said, the alphabet people can say whatever they want and be protected. Why? The higher ups not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. And that's my point. I just don't like I think and a lot of that has to do with being black in America. You know what I mean? Dave Chappelle said it in one of his stand-ups years ago. I'm like Dave. I'm kind of jealous of their movement because they have become so relevant and so protected, as Drew said, and have so many different rights and have a voice. It only been a movement for what, 40 to 60 years. Well, we as African Americans, we literally built this. Our ancestors built this country, but yet and all, even when years ago, when they came up in Atlanta with the what was it, the anti-Asian hate bill or whatever the case may be, down in Georgia, I forgot the exact title of it, but it was something that was put in the law that you couldn't hate on Asians no anymore.
Yeah,
How,
that was the Stop Asian Hate bill.
yeah, there you go. How's everybody moving? We've been here since the beginning. How's everybody moving ahead of us on the justice system or all these different rights? How is this?
Because we don't. Well, I spoke to this on the other podcast, but we're the only community, and I'm speaking in general, that relies on other races to help us. Asians, though, like when they did that Stop Asian Hate bill, Asians didn't even want that. They ain't even asked for it. Like they literally didn't ask for it. But they know that Asians donate more financially to campaigns and all that than black folks do. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to cater to their biggest donors. So the situation with that is like Asians didn't even care. You actually had, that's why they still voted the same way. Like almost 40% of Asians voted for Trump. Even though they 2 years prior, they did pass that Stop Asian Hate bill within 30 days after being submitted. It passed and was signed. Biden signed it within 30 days. So that right there, that's why you have so many people, so many black folks that's leaving, like just becoming unaffiliated, because we're sitting there. How long people gonna allow the people you vote for to promise you nothing but hope, promise you nothing but change, and when you rally and vote for them, you get none of that. But you see everybody else doing. Like Obama literally laid the foundation for LGBTQIA. He laid that foundation his first 2 years because he had a filibuster-proof Senate. He had 61 votes. He had 59, and he had the 2 independents. So it couldn't be filibuster. He broke the record in Congress by gaining 88 or 82 congressional seats. Like they had a 277 seat, it was like 277, where all you need is 218. So he pushed all this stuff through, but the main thing that he pushed through was the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act, what a lot of people don't understand, the biggest provision that was in that Affordable Care Act was surgeries for gender changes. So now it's subsidized. So now taxpayers was paying for it. That's why a lot of people like. I'll be honest. After I voted for him the first time, after all that stuff started going through, because I looked behind the lines, dude. I ain't vote for him the second time. I'll put it that way, because he promised all this stuff, but everybody giving him props because he built a basketball court on the White House tennis court because he wear a tan suit. Oh, like it's like black folk, just like with Kamala. And I know that's your girl and stuff. You had your Harris and everything, but the thing is like she even tried with tennis shoes because they're like, oh, the black people like tennis shoes, boy.
Ah,
They lick the bottoms.
the Chucks and Pearls.
But the thing is, after she lost, you ain't seen her in a pair of sneakers. You follow, like, what do they give us? They get, the other side gives like people that was poor that made it, but they gave us Megan Thee Stallion. They gave us Cardi B. They give us like all this stuff that we don't. They hype us up. They try to buy us with entertainment. So my thing is like, I tell black folks, you can't be upset with what you voted for. And I'm not saying like particular parties, but you have to start giving weight behind your vote. That's why I tell people, become unaffiliated. Stop, get off any plantation. Become unaffiliated, and they literally call you to poll you to see what it is that you're looking for. You know, like if you're already a part of a political party, they don't try to find out, oh, what your needs are, because they know if you a member of Democrat Party, especially black community, 95% you voting Democrat. If you a Republican, 90% you voting Republican. So it gets to the point where we just have to start demanding accountability. Like I tell people all the time, where somebody was saying in the Facebook group, um Biden didn't do anything he promised. I say he only promised two things: that he was not going to be Trump, which he wasn't, and that he was going to get rid of everything that Trump put into place, whether it worked or not, which he did. So he didn't promise a whole lot of stuff. But I'm like, at least the other dude, he's up there talking about, well, I want to reduce the cost in this. I want to do this. I want to make it allow people to have their own, like, receive money to send their kids to school where they want to send them to. Like, and people are like, well, he ain't doing it. I'm like, the cat being sued for everything. Like every agenda item is being sued. And I'm sitting here like, it don't matter if you black, white, Asian. I said, people just need, I tell people it's 4 years, benefit. But I just think we have to start waking up as a community in general and start making people accountable. Make them, that's what, when we had the other podcast and we was talking about, they asked me why I didn't support Kamala Harris. I'm like, because she don't have no policies. Like she talked about the tax on tips, and they said, well, how are you going to do it? And she's like, oh, well, we're just going to have to find a way. Trump said no tax on tips. They asked him, how are you going to do it? Oh, we're going to do tariffs. Like you give a policy and you explain how you're going to do it. She didn't do any of that. And look, I invest probably more in her than a lot of people. See this? This is her book. I got her other book right here. Like, People were supporting her and didn't even buy her book. And that's the thing. She had that fake love because you don't have real love or real support if you burn through $2 billion in 90 days. Oh, excuse me, 107 days. Because everybody for the other dude running against her was doing their stuff for free. Guess what? Because they supported him. Ain't no way Oprah should have charged her $2 million. She the richest black woman in America. That was a write-off. Who? Al Sharpton. Ain't no reason why she should have had to pay him $500,000 for him to boost her up. So Beyonce getting 5 million, Eminem getting 1.8 million, Cardi B getting 2.5 million. That's not support. That's that fake love, like Drake used to say.
Yeah, it's just a jacked up system, period, man. And I just get tired of everybody moving ahead of us on the totem pole. Like it's crazy to me. But that's neither here nor there, man. Juice
Yeah,
says she trying to blend in and appeal to the masses for votes, and yeah, that's exactly what she did. But
yeah, but she didn't learn from Hillary. Hillary threw that concert with Jay-Z, Beyonce on election night till 3, 4 in the morning, Katy Perry and all them, and she got blown out. She should have learned right there that don't work. People are looking at their pockets, they're looking at the situation. They're going through COVID where everything was shut down. They going through that. They weren't caring about. And then Megan, like, she do the dang on concert, and when Megan finished performing, half the dang on Mercedes Benz arena empties out. Soon as, because they just promote it as a free Megan Thee Stallion concert.
yeah,
So
you just
they
got to
made the
stop pandering to
mistake.
people, period. Not just black people, just pandering to people, period. And like I said, at the end of the day, I hear exactly what you're saying, but it still don't make it right. You know, for I don't like that. Even as a black person, even if I wasn't black, I'm talking about the principle of a thing where like what we talking about with Jay and Ivy, like if you have the right to feel free, if you have the right to be gay, if you have the right to be whatever, why do I have to be apologetically a Christian? You know what I mean? If you get to be who you are, why do I get to be who I am and voice myself? Oh, I got to censor myself though. I got to watch what I say because I'm in jeopardy of losing my job if I say anything. But they never gonna fire you because they scared of a lawsuit. It's like they so protected. All these and like I said, I'm like Dave. I'm kind of envious of the progress that you guys have made. I'm kind of envious. It is saddening. I'm laughing, keep from crying because it's sad. It's saddening and it's heartbreaking. But it's like people like me that I just finished talking about. When you stand on principle, when you stand on merit, when you stand on your beliefs, you want to get criticized for it. But if it goes contrary to this, and that's another thing that bothers me, and that we say that for another show because we're going to wrap up. But it baffles me how Christianity, America has the biggest population of Christians, so-called Christians. We have a God we trust on the money, right? But when you look at us in general, because of course, in as a whole, we are the least biblical or Christian oriented people in the world because it's the land of the free, the home of the brave. You know what I mean? Over here, we get to do whatever we want to do, say whatever we want to say, be with whoever we want to be, and still call ourselves Christians. I thought that was real interesting. I posted it. Tag, I meant to send that to you too, Sam, so we could have pulled that up. But the whole, I don't know if you guys seen it on my Facebook page. If you haven't, go back and look at it. An exchange with what's old girl name? Candace Owens and Don Lemon. And they whole little exchange. I thought it was interesting because they both were claiming to be Christians, but here it is. He's married. He's in a gay marriage. He's married to another man. And Candace was pretty position was pretty much. Matter of fact, I'm gonna see if I can put so you can pull it up real quick. Uh, Julian said, "Bro, neither Harris or Clinton was going to beat old boy. There's so many reasons that man is there. It's beyond our understanding." I told you, y'all know how I feel. That's why I just listen and I respect everybody's opinion. I believe it's all a stage play. I believe that we don't really. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Things gonna unfold the way they was gonna unfold, no matter who's in office, because we're just watching the movie play out. Spike Lee is the director. Spike Lee is the writer, the producer. You know what I mean? Either you're gonna like the movie or you're not gonna like the movie. Some people like Sinners, some people didn't like Sinners, but at the end of the day, none of us as viewers has any say so on what's gonna be put on the big screen. That's the way I feel like when it comes to politics. At the end of the day, we're watching the production play. Like even with jobs, it was funny. I was working at this particular job. I won't say where, but we want to do all these feedback. We want to do surveys. Tell us how you feel about your work environment. Tell us how you feel about your supervisor. What could they be do? Dude, these surveys are just to make you feel like it matters. None of this stuff is gonna be implemented. They do not care how you feel. It's like it's all false hope. It's false hope. They do not care. They're not saying, you know what? Let's read through these surveys. You know what? That sounds like a good idea. No. They just want you to feel like that so you could be a happy employee. like, uh, Drew said, correct, Marv. The script must play out. Yeah. That's why I always tell people at the end of the day, you gotta have a personal relationship with God. Because only I was having a conversation yesterday, shoot. Only he can help us. Only he can truly help us at this particular point. I'm trying to pull that up real quick, Sam, so we can share that. And then I wanted to get into a little bit of the Mike Malone hire before we got up out of here. For my fellow Carolina fans. Where is it? After 5 years. Here you go. See if you can pull this one up, Sam, and we can hear it. You think it's a sin? So you think I'm because I'm not a fan of either one of them either, which is another reason I found it so interesting that I came across it. I don't know. I put it like this. I won't say I don't like Candace Owens because I don't know enough about her. I just know from the little stuff that I've seen on her, I choose not to watch her. So I don't know whether she's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't know. I don't know whether E40 is a good rapper or not. I refuse to listen to him. So I won't say he's trash. I don't know. I don't listen to him. And that's my choice. I look at things like that when it comes to these different personalities, whatever. Not watching Judge Judy. I don't care if she has a #1 court show, whatever. I never want to watch Judge Judy. I don't like her attitude or her demeanor. Said Sam, you don't have value. He wasn't saying nothing then, Drew.
Can you hear?
I can hear you now. I can't. Let me see. Hit play on that. See if we can hear it. Nah,
Did you hear that?
can't hear it. Nah.
That's why I gotta do. That's why I gotta do sound checks.
Yeah. It worked good the first time we tried it with the Ice Cube joint.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes StreamYard does updates and stuff, but that's why I basically like before I play video, I want to go through everything because it can be, at least you prepare.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just play from here. Yeah. You ain't got to hear, but you can hear the audio. Just so I can hear you now, saying. Let's see. Can you hear this?
About same-sex marriage.
It's a sin.
Can y'all hear this?
So you think
It
I'm
is a
sinful?
sin.
All right. So this is
What
an
do you think
exchange
about-
between Candace Owens and Don
You
Lemon.
think
It
I'm
is a sin.
sinful?
It's a sin.
You think it's a sin? So you think
It
I'm
is a sin.
sinful?
What's that?
You think I'm sinful because I'm married to a man?
Yeah.
You do.
Yes, you're sinning. You are in a sinful relationship. I actually don't believe marriage can be between two men. So I don't.
But you understand, though, Candace, and maybe we're not going to agree on this now. I thought we would. Do you understand, though, that the same Bible verses and the same scriptures that are used to call same-sex marriage sinful are used to call interracial marriage sinful as well? And so there are people who would say that you are in a sinful marriage.
Can you tell me which verse it is that would make people say?
The thing is that it's actually not there, and that people twist the Bible verses. That's my whole point. Thank you for proving that, because it doesn't say that, and it's actually, you're going to say Leviticus or whatever. It's not actually what Leviticus says. But go on. I don't want to get into specifics about the Bible, but that's not what the Bible says. It's just people using and interpreting Scripture in a way that they want to interpret it. So, look. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I don't believe that I'm in a sinful marriage, but there are people who believe, Candace Owens, that you are in a sinful marriage because you are in an interracial marriage. And I say that as someone who is in an interracial marriage, so I am doubly sinful.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody make a biblical argument against people being married that are black and white. So that's why I said, can you just tell me what verse that was? Sodomy is obviously a sin. But I've never heard a biblical argument. I'm happy to learn. I'm happy to learn.
Sodomy is not just for gay sex, right? You know that, right? Sodomy is.
Yeah, it's a sin always, by the way.
Yeah, it's a sin between, it can be a sin between heterosexuals as well.
Yes, that's correct.
So, but you've never heard that interracial marriage was sinful?
I've never heard somebody make a biblical argument for interracial. I've never, and that's why I'm saying if you could present that to me, and if maybe you're familiar with what verse that
not
was.
A biblical argument. It's also a religious argument as well, more so than anything, that you're in a sinful marriage and that black and white people should not be married.
I mean, I'm obviously very aware that people can think that ideologically, but I've never heard that biblical argument made ever in my life, and I'm happy to be proven wrong here, but I think you made that up on the spot there.
So by saying that, no, I didn't actually, but by saying that you believe that I'm in a sinful marriage, does that mean, though, that I should be discriminated against?
No, I've never called for discrimination.
So you believe in the separation of church and state, then?
Heterosexual couples can sin as well. I mean, I hope that you deal with that. I want you to be Christian and to understand why it is that sodomy is a sin and what else it yields in society.
Man, that junk had me laughing so hard the first time I watched it. Because, pun intended, his butt cheeks was literally hurting. Like, he was so mad and trying to keep it together. But all she did was ask him simple, where can you show me that in the Bible that interracial marriage is wrong? Now, I do believe, it's been a while since I read through the whole Bible, but I do believe that it says something to the effect of, like, people, I forgot where it's at, but people were supposed to marry, you wasn't supposed to marry no outsiders. You know, when you talk about the Ruth and Boaz story, you know, you go back to the historical context of that, like, they wasn't supposed to marry women from this particular part of the world in different countries. So I would assume that that's exactly what he's talking about in reference to this. But to his point, that's one thing that's so tricky about Christianity to me, or the Bible, because old school saints will say, the Bible, the word is the word. You know what I mean? The word is the word, and you just either you live it or you don't. You can't serve two masters. I get all of that, but it's like, how in this day and age, you fast forward to the present day, how is it that we still have all this same Bible, same word, same doctrine, because the word of God is infallible, where you have these same churches nowadays with gay bishops, the first man kissing in the pulpit, preaching from the same exact Bible. So who are you to say that you're a better Christian? Or who am I to say that I'm a better Christian for somebody that say they believe they accepted Jesus Christ in their heart, but they're homosexual? It's like, it's so mind-boggling to me when I think about that. Like, that's why I was saying what I was saying. It's like, it's funny how in America we have been so. I believe that that's the greatest accomplishment of Satan, in my opinion. He has the wool over so many people's eyes, and you say, you know what? It's like, what I believe is a trick of the enemy is what people is calling being awoken or having an epiphany or these different things, a great revelation. No, that's not no great revelation. It's just that he got you convinced to believe something that isn't true because he's trying to keep you from going where he could never go to again for eternity. You know what I mean? That's his main objective, is to keep us from getting to where he can never go again. Who is man that as angels, here it is, we have one purpose. God created us to worship him. Who is man that they get a choice whether they will worship him or not? You see what I'm saying? Is that jealousy? Is that contentment? And we always do that. It bothers me when people ask me, when I be at work and people ask me like that, hey, what's up? I'm not responsible for no other adult. I don't know where they at. I don't know what time do they come in. I'm not responsible for what they do when they get to work, how hard they work. I ain't got nothing to do with all that there. So don't even come to me with that deal. All I'm responsible for, all I care about is me and my performance. I don't care that joker don't come to work. If he could get away with it, that's on him. I'm going to do what I'm hired to do. You know what I'm saying? Because that's my stance. That's my integrity. Some people, hey, look, this is just a check. Why I'm going to work when I ain't got to? Thanks, Sam, too. Sam said Genesis for creation, Ephesians for marriage, and Galatians for spiritual equality. Genesis 2:24, where a man leaves his parents to join his wife, becoming one flesh, in a passage Jesus referenced in Mark 10:6-9. Also Ephesians 5:22, wives submit to thy husbands. Husband love their wives as Christ loved the church. Drew said she needs to go talk with the black Hebrew Israelite. She will hear it loud and clear. That joint sounds so weird though.
Yeah, this is the thing. When you look at Genesis, right, in 2:24, where a man leaves his parents to join his wife, it doesn't say when a person leaves their parents to join their person. It don't say where a man leaves his parents to join his husband. Or it doesn't say when a man leaves his parents to join another man. And then when it says Ephesians 5:22 and 23, wives submit to husbands. Husbands love wives as Christ loved the church. It don't say husband, for both ways. So when people try to say that argument, that's why they're starting to come out with all these versions of the Bible to where they make it non-binary. So it doesn't say man, it says person. And like they're trying to turn that in like they're supposed to exegete the text. You give the word as if you understand what the author was doing, not your own. Like, I don't turn it into my thoughts. Marv, you're not supposed to turn it into your thoughts. And that's why I think when the one thing I do respect about Candace Owens, I saw her, I'm not sure who all saw her interview on the Breakfast Club, but it got like over 10 million views. Like, she was squared away when she did that. Like she did her thing, and there was certain things she wasn't on the up and up when it comes to like black culture. Like when they said God is good, and she was like, oh yeah, amen, he is. Like they was getting after her. But the thing is, you have to respect that she will call somebody out. And when Don Lemon, he's used to people trying to like be nice. He's like, so am I in sin? She's like, oh yeah, you are. You sinning. You know.
No, and that's the thing I loved about it. He was so passive. Not to cut you off, but he was so passive aggressive with it. You could see the frustration. You could hear it in his voice. Well, I thought we was going to agree with it on this, but I guess we're not. Like, dude, he was so in his feelings. And to your point, that's what made it so funny to me because like she stand the ground on what I watched her. I watched the clip of her on something else. I forgot who it was. They was interviewing her about transgenders, and she was like, "No, you can't. No, you can't have a baby. You can feel like a woman. You could cut off your penis. You could do whatever the case may be, but you will never be a woman. Like you can't. So I will always call you a man. Yes, sir. No, sir. Like, it was like, but to my point earlier, why is it that because she don't agree with that, and it's her right to have that mindset or that perspective. Why do we have to cancel her, or you know what I mean? Why does she come on the attack because she don't want to go along with your agenda? Why can't you just respect the fact that you don't agree with her, she don't agree with you, move on? Why does everything have to become such an issue when people don't see the word like we do? And to me, within Christianity, I'm glad you said what you said, Sam, because that's the problem. I'm about to read you comment too. But that's part of the problem when it comes to Christianity. Because based off of your explanation, when you said, a man leaves his parents for his wife, you got people these days that make the same argument that, well, then a woman can't be a bishop. Because it says that a bishop, part of the requirement for a bishop is to be the husband of one wife. A wife can't be, you know what I mean? So I it's a whole different thing. We have it in these different debates whether women can be pastors or women can be leaders. Women supposed to be silent in the church. Women. So that's the part that's always been problematic for me as a believer when it comes into the Bible, because the Bible is only going to be limited into which is why the Holy Spirit is so important too. But the Bible is only going to be accepted to your level of comprehension and understanding, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? It always amazes me how somebody could read the same scripture, the same exact text, and get totally two different meanings from the same exact thing. The words ain't changed not one bit, but it's two different levels of understanding because we are all individuals. And like I say, I'm not getting into all that. I ain't talking about whether women should preach, whether women should be silent in church, all that did. Because from my studies, or me studying all that, it was the Apostle Paul was talking to a particular church. That's why in the New Testament you have the church of Corinth, you have the church of Galatia, you have the church of, and anybody that's been associated to more than one church in their lifetime, you'll see that even if they fall under the same umbrella, each church has a different ministries or callings, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, you have some churches, their main thing is prosperity. You have some churches where you go into, you won't see not one member that's under 50 years old. You got some churches where you won't see nobody that's over 50 years old. You see what I'm saying? So it's always subjective, and people gonna go to what they mostly likely is comfortable with. That's why I always go back to the same thing. That's why you have people that when they used to call shacking up, it ain't necessarily a sin no more. Or pastors could know that somebody is shacking up or ain't living a holy lifestyle, so to speak. But it's cool. They can still be active in the church. That's problematic for me, but this is not my world. and I don't get to dictate. You know what I'm saying? Only thing I can do is live my life according to my belief system. And because somebody else's doesn't line up, their belief doesn't line up with mine. I have, like, again, I have no hell, heaven or hell to put them in. Drew said the word of God is too watered down in the U.S. So many people are distracted by many different things. Satan is attacking the U.S. because it's like the center of attraction. So other countries looking on and following the U.S. You ask anyone outside of the U.S. where they would like to go, they would say the U.S. It's too loose, bro. No disrespect intended. No, Drew, no disrespect taken, because that's exactly what I was saying. And as America, here it is. We like to talk about being a Christian country. We believe in God, is on our money, and God we trust. But wasn't it Bush that took prayer out of the schools? We so godly, like, and he took prayer out of the schools. We can't have prayer no more. Then 9/11 happened. What we want to do? We want to have a national day of prayer. It's funny. It's funny how it's so quick. You see what I'm saying? But it's like, for us to be, that's one thing about these Islamic countries. You know what I mean? They more biblical because they're more strict. You know, you quick, of course, then they're gonna chop your hands off. You know, all these different things. But over here, we can do whatever we want to do. And to your point, Drew, that's why I said there's no disrespect. Is definitely like that in America. You have the right to do and say whatever you want to do, as long as, you know what I mean. So they say. So they say. But we know that ain't always true in all cases either. But to your point, is no structure, is no. You could just come and help go along to get along here in the States. Sam says the Bible is considered an active supernatural force that transforms lives rather than a stagnant historical text.
That's why they call it the living word. You know, and I tell people that's why you can have 10 people read the same scripture and it'll impact those 10 people in 10 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to mention, I know you had mentioned about Bush taking prayer out of school.
Mm.
Actually, it was done in, I think, 1962, 1963, where the Supreme Court removed school-sponsored mandatory prayer. And it came in, I think it was Eggle and Winch. No, Eggle and Vital, because we studied it in seminary. And the thing is, the school boards, they basically removed it from being mandatory in 62. The Supreme Court did. But a lot of school boards and stuff that still have Christian values, they continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It was that case. So after 1962, nobody had to pray in school. That was something that was handled basically by every individual school board in every state.
Yeah, but when Bush got into it, when Bush did what he did, couldn't you get in trouble for actually pray? It wasn't where it was mandatory.
No,
It
you
just took
couldn't.
away the option from you. Like, I remember when living in Little Rock, Arkansas at a particular time, and people wouldn't necessarily. It wasn't like it was mandated, where they had to get in trouble. But people would get. It would be a big deal where people got to bring their parents to school because they would try to pray in school, and you could get in trouble for that. Your kid could possibly get.
Yeah, but that could have been the school board. Remember, the school board regulates everything that school in that district does. That's why every district has their own school board. And they vote on certain books that can be in the library, certain books that can stay out. But it was removed from being mandatory in 62. Now, somebody chose to do it, that's on them. They could take it to court and all that stuff for a violation, but that's also now is a violation of Title VII of the 1965 or 64 Civil Rights Act. If you look at Title VII, you know, and that ties into the First Amendment now, you know, with the main point being religion. So they can't make it mandatory anymore, but they can't. If somebody in Little Rock was getting in trouble for it, they could have sued the dang on school unless the school board has certain parameters in effect. Like I know a lot of people in state government, they'll have like an American flag on their desk, but then somebody will come in and put like a pride flag on their desk, and somebody in the office will say, "Oh, I'm against that. That ain't no belief." So they change the law saying only government official flags can be flown at your personal desk. Then you had the states that came, okay, well they came out with that law. Our school board is going to vote for the pride flag to be an official flag. So like that's the purpose. Like school boards, that's why I tell people school boards have a lot more power than people want to give them credit for. You
Yeah.
still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was
Yeah.
just reading it. I got to do more research on it. But I know it was something it was something about prayer in schools. It had something to do with schools in particular. And I hear what you're saying, but I'm not talking about whether it was mandatory or not. I'm just talking about whether you was permitted to if you wanted to, which is
Yeah,
supposed to be American
but
right.
that's a violation of Title VII of 1964 Civil Rights Act.
What?
That's
That you
that's
can't
the
pray in
reason.
schools?
If somebody keeps you from doing that, like they can't make you, but if a student wants to go before they eat and they want to pray, they can't stop them from praying. That's a violation of Title VII. It's
Yeah.
it's the same reason why a couple years ago people didn't want to pass the George Floyd Act, because the George Floyd Act, they were like, oh, it's like it's strengthening the 1964 Civil Rights Act to protect this. I'm like, no, the 1964 Civil Rights Act covered everything, especially under Title VII, which talked about your religious preference, your sexual preference, your gender, your skin color. That's all under Title VII. The George Floyd Act was bringing in those same provisions for people that are trans. That's what people. I read the whole George Floyd Act. It is specifically the only edit from it that was different from the 1964 Civil Rights Act was the stuff about the LGBTQIA stuff. But they had people gaslit out here talking about, oh, that's this and that, and it's a violation. They always try to pull black folks to be their ally. But when black folks need those people, they ain't nowhere to be found.
Mhm.
So I think Terry Hardy is asked, is that why they took the Pledge of Allegiance
It was good, T.
after it was taken out? This is the thing. Like I'll tell you, like here in Raleigh, Ravenscroft, every morning, every class they do the Pledge of Allegiance. NRCA does it. Almost all the private schools in this area say the Pledge of Allegiance. What they did was, and this is why some people wasn't feeling Obama. He basically did what the civil rights did with the prayer. He didn't make it mandatory. He gave school boards a choice to regulate if that school district had to say the Pledge of Allegiance or not. Because to this day, every private school in Raleigh, they say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the day in homeroom, and that's from K through 12. So I just think it wasn't taken. It was basically just the school. Like a lot of things are being taken from the federal level and moved to the state level and the district level, because North Carolina is not like Iowa. Des Moines, Iowa isn't like Syracuse, New York. Every state has their different principles, their different morals, even within those cities. So I think that's just what we have to take. But I do know the prayer that was specific. Like we had to do a case study and stuff when I was at Southeastern on that.
Yeah. Like to me, I think it'll also be optional.
What I mean? But this is the other thing. You have Muslim kids, like when they started, it happened really big when George Bush allowed all the Somalis to come to the U.S. and gave them permanent residency status. When George Bush did that, the Somalis began to be integrated into the public schools, and they started to say, I refuse to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I refuse to pray to Jesus Christ. So they're the ones who really push it, and they started getting all this social services money, all this EBT, all these provisions, and they started taking that money and paying politicians to vote how they wanted to vote. They were literally the tip of the spear of removing prayer out of school or not making it mandatory, the Pledge of Allegiance and all that, because it makes them uncomfortable.
And me personally, I agree with that. Like, same way I could pray to Jesus if I would want to, where it don't be necessarily mandatory. They should be able to pray to Allah, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? That should be.
No, it wasn't that they was keeping them from praying to Muhammad or Allah. I
know what you're saying.
They didn't want to hear Jesus Christ or my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So it wasn't making them pray. They didn't want to listen.
I didn't say that it was making them pray. I agree with that. Just like with me,
hold on. What part do you agree with?
That you shouldn't have to. If you don't want to pray, you shouldn't have to pray. I go to these,
you're not hearing what I'm saying. Of course they shouldn't have to pray, but they didn't want to hear it. Like, they wanted to be removed from the class while other people was praying. They didn't want to hear it. That's the point I'm making. So that's what they lobbied to have it to where it couldn't even be spoken of in the schools, in public schools. Because Ravencroft, they pray, NRCA, they pray, NRCA is, Christian based. But that's what I'm saying. Is like, I'm asking you, so you agree? Are you saying you agree that nobody should be able to say a prayer?
No, I agree. What I'm saying is you shouldn't have to pray if you don't want to. Now, I'm not going as far as to say that you can't sit there hear it. If you don't want to hear it, that's on you.
No, but that was what I'm talking about. That was the issue. It wasn't they was making the Somalis pray.
Okay, so we talking about two different things then.
That's what I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to get to.
I'm talking about something totally different.
They didn't want to hear it. Like, so they rallied to pay for people to get on the school board that will vote that out of school, so they didn't even have to hear it.
Okay, so back to my initial point though, how is that even possible in a so-called Christian society? Because of money. Again, money is more important than your principles or your belief system. If you could pay them to put this in the act and in the law, that's wrong.
That's why those Somalis are not real Muslim. Because a true Muslim, like, I remember when I came from the Middle East, I had crossover. I was as militant as they was. There was a time where I was in the Nation of Islam. I was trying to sneak off the base, put on my suit and bow tie. I was on the corner of Murchison Road and Shaw Road selling dang on bean pies. I went through that phase. I had to study that stuff. I was doing all the prayer and all. A lot of brothers did when we was over in Saudi. So, but the thing is like, there's certain things, like a good Muslim doesn't put a hand on his wife. He's a protector of his wife. And that's what people don't understand. Like, 90% of Muslims are Sunni. The 10%, those are the ones that's trying to kill every American. Like Oklahoma City bombing, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was these guys in Iran that did that. You look at the Marine barracks that got bombed and 250 Marines got killed. That was these cats in Iran. You look at when the U.S. was leaving Afghanistan and the suicide bomber took out 13 soldiers when they were leaving the country. They announced they're leaving. That was these cats in Iran. So when people talk about like, oh, they started a new war, we've been at war since 79, since the U.S. completely evacuated Iran. We evacuated Iran. We closed down the 2 embassies. We didn't have any passport. Every U.S. citizen left Iran because that new cat came in and he was like, anyone a Christian face will be murdered on the spot, and they started murdering people. So this is a war that's been going on since '79 when the U.S. left it. It just so happened a couple of years ago when as you said, my favorite president, when instead of fighting against him or trying to hold him down, he chose to like pay him. And that's what it's like the $1.5 billion, and that was supposed to be paid annually. And then Trump get elected and he stopped those payments. And then when he lost the election, Biden came into office and he back paid them. That's why he unfroze $6 or $7 billion. So I tell folks, like, do you want our leaders to just keep paying them off for them? And while you're paying them off, they still taking out all of our U.S. soldiers on the ground. Yeah, they're not attacking over here. Well, they are. We just don't see it because Oklahoma City bombing was in the U.S. There, when this bombing started happening, the nuclear plants. Look what happened in Austin. They started activating sleeper cells that have come over here. That's why the guy, yelled out Allah Akbar down in Texas the day after it happened, when the CIA announced, if you're an American, be wary of crowded spaces. And that cat came, his 2.9 mils just unloading on everybody. But in Texas, that didn't last long because almost everybody carrying in Texas. So I just think that, people just have to understand, like, I was over there. I was Liberation of Kuwait, Iraqi freedom, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. That we was all, everybody over there understands how that life is. But I tell people at the same time, there's a reason why everybody, like I think Jude said it earlier, there's a reason why everybody's trying to come to the U.S. It isn't because the U.S. is this amazing country. The reason is the U.S. takes care of outsiders better than it takes care of themselves. Like
strict over here.
But I have a friend of mine. I'm not gonna say their name or anything, but they get Social Security, they get SSDI, they get $920 a month. Her husband only gets $700 a month. Jokers coming from dang on Somalia, Afghanistan, getting SSDI for what is it? $1,600 a month. And then while the people I'm talking about only getting like $150 a month for food stamps or EBT, they getting dang on $600 because they have a special diet where they're not supposed to eat pork. So they get they're taking care of them better than the people who are here struggling. So I just think that's why everybody is trying to come here, because you get all these social programs. And that's the reason why people want to get here, because you come to the U.S., bank all your money, stay here a year, and go back and build you a dang on house. Look online and Google the boom of Somali housing. You've been hearing about all these fraud schemes here in the U.S. and everything with the Somalis. They sending all that money home, and now Somalia is 45% of Somali's GDP is money that comes from the U.S. So that's the thing right there. That's the stuff I have an issue with. So that's why I tell folks, like, be mindful, be aware, hold your leaders, church leaders, political leaders, coaches, hold them accountable. Just like how you was calling out Gino earlier, at the beginning of your show, you calling him out, like, you got to be at the same standard. But I've spoke to a lot of Sunni Muslims, and they're like, them Somalis that a Muslim don't steal, a Muslim don't rob, a Muslim don't, like, they're just being a Muslim because being a Muslim is a civilization. It's a way of life. Is based off your religious beliefs. But they will say it's religion because look how many laws in the US will protect them under the guise of religion. Like when you see Ilhan Omar talking about abortions and stuff, women's rights to have an abortion, she would never have an abortion because one of the greatest sins of a Muslim is to kill another Muslim. You follow what I'm saying? Like, so they're saying it because all they're doing is trying to get black folks rivaled up and become an ally of theirs. When we can't wake up and understand that's all they doing. If black folks, if we've been voting a certain way for 80 years and our circumstances still ain't changed, at one point or another, we got to wake up and see that, like, but it's been the same way for 80 years. In 72, we were dead last in wealth. In 2026, we're dead last in wealth. So when are people going to wake up?
Mm-hmm. But that's neither here nor there. We gonna get out of here, man. We gonna get. I'll get into the whole Mike Malone next week. Run out of time. I got to get ready. Get into that Mike Malone hire next week. UNC. Thank everybody for tuning in. Oh yeah, that's the only point I was making. I was saying, like I said, I wanted to clear that up. I don't care about what they was talking about. What I'm saying is you should have the right. Like even with me personally, I remember almost getting into a fight with this old military dude at Millbrook because I wouldn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, for the national anthem, and even as a kid, I refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance. You know what I mean? Because once I first learned that, I'm talking about as a child, I wasn't even double digits yet. When I learned what the word pledge means, I'm not pledging myself to anything other than God. I'm not pledging allegiance to a flag. I'm not pledging allegiance to no organization. I'm not pledging allegiance to no church. Only thing I'm pledging allegiance to is God Almighty. But that's just me. So again, if people want to do that, that's cool. But I would never say, well, I wouldn't try to go as far as to put it in the law where you can't say the Pledge of Allegiance in my presence. Because that's your right to do something, do whatever. But neither here nor there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, man. Did you want to let them know about your joint real quick?
Oh yeah, if it's cool. I'm starting another podcast called The Open Train of Thought, and basically, it's to promote people of just different minds, different sets. You mind if I share my screen real quick? Yep. So this is Open Train of Thought. It's the YouTube page, and basically, it's going to be something dedicated to bringing together people of different political, moral, social, economic, and life experiences for just respectful dialogue. In a time where it's easy to stay in echo chambers, we believe the value of listening, questioning, and understanding viewpoints that aren't your own. That's the goal, just to make the world kind of like, the barbershop used to be. Like you didn't agree with everybody in the barbershop, but you would listen. Yeah, we get heated sometimes in the barbershop, but then everybody chill out. So I think that's what the platform is supposed to be. Is basically going to be also a lot of reactions. So we may play a video like about Trump talking about he about to take out the whole civilization of Iran, and kind of like dissect that, and which he did a few days ago. But it's just people from different backgrounds, socioeconomic, political, just to give their 2 cents on the video. So the video might be like 1 or 2 minutes, maybe 3, but is going to give everybody a stage to just be able to give their opinion, and also to also help promote businesses, to promote ministries, to promote, anybody that's a guest on there. We definitely want to make sure we promote what they're doing at no cost. But if somebody has something that they're doing, a mentoring program, if somebody is a coach, like I saw you mention Capital Steelers, and I know one of my boys, he's been coaching with the Steelers for probably, I know he's been trying to retire for like 10 years, but he keep doing it, you know, and just kind of like how to help benefit the community. It's not necessarily fundraising and stuff, but it's kind of like bringing awareness, especially for the coaches that sacrifice their time to coach, their families sacrificing, sharing their husband, sharing their dad with all these other kids. So I think it's definitely going to be productive. I know I'm definitely going to want to have you on there. I'm going to want to have Julian, anybody else listening. You're welcome. We do have a Facebook page called the Open Train of Thought. We're on Twitter. Just type in Open Train of Thought. Um, the logo is basically a train. Let me open it up. So that way where you're at. And I think this photo here kind of represents what the organization is about. Well, the podcast is about. When you look at this photo of the people standing, or yes, standing up and sitting, they represent. You notice that there's Hispanics, there's white folks, there's black folks, there's Indian folks, there's Asian folks. But the one thing that they all are, that they have in common, is they're all American. So that's the goal, is just to continue to promote dialogue, just communication, because I'm one of those people. I like to talk to people that don't necessarily understand me.
Mm.
That's who I like to speak to. I like to learn different things. So hopefully it'll do that. But I appreciate anybody that follows, subscribes. Definitely join on Facebook. The Facebook group is where we get kind of like the topics that we'll cover the following week. So if it's something that's, people are just going back and forth in the Facebook group, is one of those things that I'll find a clip that we'll watch and review and just react to it. And that's it. But I appreciate you, Marv. You always, you know, it goes both ways, the love and support. Like
Yeah,
you always there, Jew's always there. Hopefully I see Terry in there and some other people. But the thing is just to promote dialogue.
no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, y'all go subscribe to that on his YouTube channel. Check out the Facebook page as well. Um, I'm gonna get up out of here. I'm running late. Got to hit this clock. Y'all be good. Just have a good weekend. Stay safe. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Lisha, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Till next week, peace.